our next speaker has kindly arrived with us virtually from the United States, from Alachua, I believe. And his name is Mahabuddhi, Sripad Mahaburi Prabhu. And I just wanted to introduce him by explaining a few wonderful things that he's done in service. Mahabuddhi, back in 1896, many of you will be aware that the first books arrived in British libraries from Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur on the Vipam Prabhu was saying earlier, it's in the same year that Prabhupada was born, appeared. And joining a dotted line to that, this gentleman headed up the Bhaktivedanta Library Party, putting Prabhupada's books in all the libraries in the United States. That was one of his many services. He has a degree in public services and hospital administration, so very adept in worldly matters. He has a PhD. Srila Prabhupada also instructed for us to create a university along Vedic lines, and he's founded the Florida Vedic College. And he was also one of the early founders of the New Vrindavan community. And he came to Srila Gurudeva pretty early on and was one of those Prabhupada disciples that Sri Gurudev had a very unique relationship with. So I'm very excited to present to you all Sripad Mahabuddhi Prabhu from Alachua. Haribol.
Actually, I'm going to correct it. I'm in the hills of West Virginia. Been hiding out for several years, but I'm very pleased to accept the opportunity to glorify my Gurudevs, Srila Prabhupada and Srila Gurudev, under this wonderful arrangement that you have done to bring this Zoom conferences to so many people. Normally, I was telling previously that I was hiding out, and I would just want to say one thing before that. I'm so appreciative of Chidandi Maharaj's glorification, and after hearing him again, I'm really missing his association, because in many ways also the reason I was hiding out, because we have been reading all of Srila Prabhupada's Ras Leela books, all of his. We've spent the last 3 years in going through Jaiva Dharma and going through Rasa Panchadaya and Madhura Kandamini, and then Vilapa Kusmanjali, and we're now on Sri Prema Bhakti Chandrika and with Bhajan Rihasa, all of these different works. And it's sort of like when you preach on these things, everyone, as he said, looks at you like, oh, so you'll have a very small crowd unless they have taste. But first, let me offer my most humble and respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of my spiritual master, His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, and same Dandavat pranams heartfelt unto my Shiksha Guru, Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayana Goswami Maharaj. I offer my respectful obeisances unto Rupanuga Gaudiya Varga, headed by Sri Rupa Manjari, Sri Rupa Goswami, and Rati Manjari, Sri Raghunath Das Goswami, and to all of the Gaudiya Vaishnava acharyas that have given their life and blood to elaborate in these literatures, so that we, many, even thousands and hundreds of years later, may have the opportunity of entering into this wonderful world of Bhadra Bhakti. So in appreciation of what Chidandi Maharaj said and what Madhavrata said, I'll say a few things. It is very hard to squeeze 45 years into like 20 minutes. But I first met Srila Prabhupada in a very unusual thing and also mystical, like Madhavrata. I had made a vow when I was 13 to try to understand what is the absolute truth. And I stopped reading any fiction, and I read all the Old Testament, New Testament, Qurans, all the different literatures, including the Taoism, Buddhism, all the way through Hinduism. And then I had and after 6 years of that, then I took my first religion class in college and corrected the teacher so much that as a freshman at 17 years old, I was teaching the religion class. But I didn't know anything about God. Even though I heard so many things, I didn't know anything. So I had read so many books, and I had met devotees once I was a football player, and they came on campus, and some Christians were heckling him, and I wanted to hear what they said. So I went up to the Christian heckler, and I gave him 3 seconds. I said, "I'm going to count to three. If you don't leave, I'm going to pound you in the dirt." So he took that seriously, and then one of the devotees came, and they gave me a back to Godhead, and I gave a donation like $1. And then I remember it was Mother Kuti, Dina Bandha's wife, and she gave me the slug glue, and the slug glue was so tasty. I've never tasted anything like that in my life. So I figured it must be $1. So I went and gave $10 and got 10 lug glues, and immediately ate all 10. So some of you may, I don't know if it was the book came first or Prasadam came first, or even the pursuit of absolute truth, but somehow Prabhupada, when his mystical weapons started going this way. So after so much confusion and teaching in college, still I didn't know anything, but I felt really know about God. So I was tearing and praying, "Please, God, please, somehow let me know who you are." So I went to the university bookstore where I was, this is similar, I guess, to my Devrata was saying. And in the bookstore, I had read almost all the books there, but I was picking up a book, I remember, I think in Christian Gnosticism or something. And on my head, a book fell on my head from the third shelf. And so I go, okay, Bhajja Gita. I couldn't say Bhagavad Gita. So Bhajja Gita or something. I said, I remember hearing this from some of my readings. So I put it back up on the shelf. I said, I'll read it sometime, but not today. And I went to pick up that book again. Again, the book fell on my head. And this book was Srila Prabhupada's first Macmillan translation of Bhagavad Gita in the paperback edition, 1968. So I took that book and I read it. And as I read it, literally it was confirming one after another, so much so my hairs were standing in, and I was going, yes, that's true. Yes, that's true. Although I didn't know these things, but I was confirmed, yes, all these things are true. I figured I finally found something. I found what I was looking for so many years through Prabhupada's book. But what happened? Because at that time there were so many this Bhagavan this and Yogi this and Maharishi this, so many cheaters were there in the 60s are preying on so many people. So I said, I'm so much indebted to this Bhagavad Gita. But who is this Bhakti Vedanta Swami? I had no idea because I had no association. So I made the vow, I'm going to go and challenge if he's a real guru. Now, most devotees, people that know me know that I'm very revolutionary, basically, and have been my whole life. So I decided I was going to challenge God. If God is there, then I was wealthy. I was a student body president and football player and had money and cars. I didn't have anything lacking. But I said, okay, I'm gonna hitchhike. So I hitchhiked from San Diego to Los Angeles to go to challenge Prabhupada. So the second car comes by and picks me up and drives me 2.5 hours and drops me off in front of the temple. And there in front of the temple, I walked in that temple, right outside the temple was Shyam Sundar. I didn't know who that was, tall devotee with red hair. So he goes, you want to see Srila Prabhupada? I said, yes, that's what I came for. So he took me up the back stairs. And granted, I've never even been to the temple before. He took me up the back stairs into Prabhupada's room. And there was a bunch of devotees there. They were all dressed in saffrons. And I remember sticks. There was a bunch of sticks up in the air. I had no idea what a danda was. And then there was 2 devotees dressed in white, the temple president and then the Lopaji Jaitirtha and Karandar. And this was in 1969, 1970. So I went there and I had this thing, 4 things. You must know what the absolute truth is. You must know what the process is. You must be able to read my mind, and you must be able to predict the future. Why these things? It was the 60s. Who knows how I came up with that stuff. Anyway, so I'm determined to ask the Prabhupada. So Prabhupada, at that time, devotees were crying. They were listening to his new Hare Krishna album. And some of the devotees were crying, and I didn't understand it. So I was sitting in the back. I could barely sit in a yoga position because my legs were too developed from playing football. And I had long curly hair. And so I sat back there, and Prabhupada was looking around the room, and he saw me, and then he looked and he focuses and said immediately, "Why are you a Kripana?" And I'm thinking, what is a Kripana? Prabhupada, and I haven't said anything. And Prabhupada said, Kripana means miser. You have abilities, you have knowledge, but you're not using them for Krishna. You're using them for yourself. Therefore, you were a miser, you were a Kripana. Now I felt offended, but I didn't say anything. So next he started explaining what the absolute truth is. The absolute truth is is to understand the pure love of God for Krishna, and Krishna is the absolute truth. And then he started explaining opposite of Brahmana. What is Brahmana? What is that? So he's going through these things one after another. He's defeating. I haven't said a word. Then he goes into understanding what's the truth, what is the process of the bhakti, and then we're going to put. I'm listening. I'm offended, but at the same time, I haven't said a word, and he's answering all my questions. And so I said, well, he didn't answer, didn't predict the future. So for the first time, Prabhupada called for Pradyumna. And I didn't know, I was sitting back there, and all the devotees made a big, like parting of the sea. So it was directly now from Prabhupada to this person they've never seen in the back with long curly hair that Prabhupada's chastising, and they don't even know why. And so what happened is he called for Pradyumna. Pradyumna walked out with this book. I'd never even seen a book that thick. It looked like it was about 24 inches thick. Pradyumna had to carry it with two hands. And this was the books, the 10 different commentaries of the Srimad Bhagavatam that Srila Prabhupada is translating from. So he went to the 12th canto. And in the 12th canto, he started to say, and no one even in the West had even heard we didn't even know there was a 12th canto at that point in early time. So he started reading the predictions for the age of Kali. Prabhupada read that, that people will think they'll be beautiful by having long hair, curly hair. And he said, there will be no justice. There'll be my money. All the food will be gone. And people will become cannibals. And then if they live to be 25 years old, they'll be ripe old men. All these things. So all my things were done. So at that point, Prabhupada left. Prabhupada said, go. And then all the devotees went to talk to me. I ran down the stairs, went out the building, hitchhiked back to my parents' house. Second car took me all the way to my parents' house. So this was an amazing thing. So this was my first meeting with Prabhupada, challenging. So I survived that. But thinking back home, I remembered that whatever you were looking for a real guru, and so he's proven he's defeated all your things, then you should just surrender. So the better half, I got back the next day and I wrote a check out for $1,000, which in 1969 was a pretty big donation. So then they gave me all of Prabhupada's books. So then over the course of time, Prabhupada, had spent so much time in teaching us. I got the very much opportunity to travel, and also with sannyasis. And we went to every college, because I was a college graduate also. So we went to all the universities and colleges in America distributing books. And in the next 4 or 5 years, we became like we were like treated like bhakti, rock stars almost, because so many thousands of books were going out. But here's the key. And this is something we should learn. In glorifying Prabhupada, I'm saying this, that we were thinking wrongly, oh, we are doing this, that all these books are going out, all these preachings, all these reviews that we're getting for Srila Prabhupada's books, this is our service, but we're thinking, oh, we're doing this. But we should understand only Guru, everything is being done by Guru. So in that time, and Prabhupada came together in 1975, installing the deities in ISKCON Chicago, and 600 devotees came. So one thing after another, that, I was under the maya of thinking I was doing these things, because I was reading all these Sankirtan newsletters and doing nothing but glorifying us. This is the worst thing you can possibly think about. Oh, that you think, oh, I'm the doer. So crush. I won't go through all the things in the middle of time. But actually the point came, and so many Prabhupada had blasted me so many times. He'd stopped the Guru Puj, which I never saw before. And so what kind of dancing is this? This is not how Vaishnavas dance. Brahmananda, show him how Vaishnavas dance. Because we were doing what's now wild dancing at that time, Guru Kripa and myself. So he had stopped everything and then started. And then at that point in time, I felt I've offended Prabhupada. So I put my bead back meat bag in the Brahmachari ashram and walk to Lake Michigan to kill myself, to commit suicide, because I've offended my spiritual master. And on the way going there, I was about a block down and I hear this, Mahaburi, Mahaburi. And Prabhupada had sent Satsrup Maharaj to call me. And I knew who the voice was, but I didn't turn around. But then eventually I said, okay, I don't want to get him in trouble too. So then when I went there, he sent a car to take us to where he was staying. And then I remembered one of the things I didn't do was pay dandabats, full dandabats, when he was having a television conference, because I was setting up a book table. I didn't want to disturb everyone. But he told everyone his disciples pay full dandabats when they come into his room. But I didn't do that at that time. So at this time, I paid full dandabats to Srila Prabhupada and realized I was nothing. Everything is being done by him. We have no abilities, that everything is just being done by Guru. And then when I took that mood and attitude, then I came up and Prabhupada was smiling at me, like laughing. And he said, I want to introduce my disciple Mahabuddhi, Prabhu, Mahabudi Das, and to you, he's doing University's Library. He said all these things. And then it was in a full room of there was the mayor and the state legislator. There's about 6 or 7 big people that he had me talk to. So here's the thing that we should understand. Who is Guru? We are all fortunate that this whole platform that we are now following, everything is being done by Guru. Those of us that are trying for Rupanuga, Varg, and this Braja Bhakti, as Tridandi Maharaj said, then what is the platform? The platform is everything is being granted by Guru. So if we don't have a relationship with Shri Guru, and so there's for those of us that are fortunate, Gurudeva told me very personally, I'd met him first, Prabhupada introduced to me, and then he was instrumental. We were sent to India, instrumental in getting the crown off Prabhupada, for those of you old enough to remember that, in Vrindavan. But this time when he called, he came to Florida, he said, and he kept calling, had his disciples calling to meet with him. So when I finally met with him, he first explained, because at that time, there was the poisoning of Prabhupada issue was coming on. Gurudev confirmed it, that Prabhupada was indeed poisoned, but he said your Guru Maharaj could leave whenever he wanted to. He was not under any ordinary position. So this, of course, people don't want to hear this, but it's actually true, and Gurudev confirmed it. He said they tried to poison him in Los Angeles also. So, but those are the real thing that Gurudev came to do is exactly what's already been said. I was fortunate enough to hear from him for a month. He came to Miami and spent a month, and every day he would preach to us. So in those courses of those discussions, in which there's so many different personal things he told us, I don't think I need to go into them from all of them, but in everything that he said, in every platform he said, it came to the understanding of what this Braj Bhakti and Radhika platform of Radha Dasyam is. But when you're smart enough to understand who is giving this, if we don't have a relation, if we don't have a relation in the sense of being snigta, being very favorable, and that being favorable, that he considers favorable, means not only just surrendering to Srila Prabhupada and Srila Gurudev, not just being humble, Trinata Pisuna Chaina, but what does it actually mean? It means that one continually tries to serve the desire of Guru for his whole life, not just once, or not just as an old person now, oh, we surrendered and we did this, and now it's just reminiscence. It means that daily within our life, every single day, that we have to endeavor to try to render devotional service, to try to render service to Guru, to try to do a Guru Vishramba Seva. If not, how then will we please Radhika? How will we become Radhika Dasi? This was explained by Tridandi in the first class. So the first thing he's saying, how do we have to think, oh, it's Radhika, but how will we do that if we don't first please Guru. There is no way, if you do not please Guru, you will not have the opportunity to become this Radhadasi, or you get very far in Braj Bhakti. Guaranteed. Because who is giving that? Who is giving the shelter? Gurudev. Who is protecting you from Maya? Gurudev. We have not yet developed our own understanding of what is our spiritual relationship is. Where is that Sudasat Visheshatma? Where is that going to come from? Gurudev. So if we don't distribute and we don't have love for a guru, then how then will we be able to develop our relationship with Radhika? Because it's all handed up. One day on Govardhan, Srila Gurudev, this was back in 2000, I don't know, two maybe, I don't know the exact date. Everyone was in Varsana, and they were taking plates on their hat with fruit and going to the Varsana temple, Varsana Govardhan Hill. And Gurudev asked, I stayed back with Gurudev. And he asked why I stayed back, because I want to hear from you what values I'm going to be just putting fruit on Govardhan, even though it is wonderful, but I wanted to hear from you. So I asked him, what are you doing? He said, I'm offering all of you. You have come from so many different thousands of miles away. No, hardly anyone knows very much about bhakti. So I'm praying to Govardhan, to Radha and Krishna, because they have surrendered to me, to please you accept these devotees. You accept them. So this is not only the mercy of Srila Prabhupada and Srila Gurudev, that he's praying that Radha and Krishna will accept you. So then how will we actually render service if we don't please Guru, if we don't put him first? So sometimes we're thinking, oh, I have to remember Radhika, and I have to remember. Yes, you do. But how will you remember? You also have to render by that service through your Guru Maharaj. And this is explained in all the books, even in the prayers by Narottam Das Thakur, Arna Kariya Mani, that one has to make one with his instructions. If you've given personal instructions, unfortunately for me, I've been given too many personal instructions. If I can just do a few of them even in this lifetime. But at the same point, so many things that these instructions are gifts. These gifts that Guru gives, because why? He's becoming close to you through his words. So if you follow those instructions, that is your benefit, that is your treasure, that is the relationship that you can have and develop. But just as like was said by Madhuvrata earlier, Gurudev, he is not ordinary. He's not like, oh, we've left this world and now, because in his uppercut platform, he's available to everyone. Maybe you couldn't do a massage at that time. Only Madhava Maharaj or some others that come and they do a massage or something. You were like that. But now, through uppercut, anyone can render service to Srila Gurudev. Anyone can render service to Srila Prabhupada. It is not that you're alone. And Prabhupada, Gurudev told me so many times. And once we were in Alachua, and it was during his Vyas Puj. And in his Vyas Puj, he said, I was in the back, about 500 person in the back, and I was thinking, this bhakti is so difficult. All we were seeing is the Rupa Goswami and Rati Manjari and all these things. They were all pure devotees. Where are we supposed to come from? Our backgrounds are so meager. Our devotional service is useless. Hardly. Prabhupada said, I have given you your qualifications. I've given you your benefit. So whatever little we had, I was thinking we're not very advanced. So I was thinking this is like hopeless. So in the middle, they were offering artik to Srila Gurudev. And immediately all the way back to the 600 person, Madhav Maharaj appears in front of me and he says, Srila Gurudev wants to talk to you. I said, now he's on the Vyasasani thing worship. Right now he wants to talk to you. I said, what first? Didn't know. So I had to go all up to the Vyasasana as they're offering artik to Srila Gurudev. And Gurudev had me come closer, right into his ears, and right to where to my ear was there. And he said, don't become hopeless. So for all of us, we should understand, don't become hopeless. So for those of us how we took Gurudev, what did those of us from ISKCON, we were coming as Prabhupada's disciples. What did we know of Shiksha? Prabhupada was our everything. We didn't know anything about a Shiksha. So I remembered, like was said before, I was praying to Prabhupada, please, somehow or other, you let us know what you're supposed to do. So two things happened. One, this was in a Alachua festival in Jalakar's house. And so Gurudev would always had me sit up in the front in a chair next to him. So we were sitting in the chair, and by looking at the chair, I don't usually say this, but by looking at the chair, I saw Prabhupada sitting next to him. And in his very same way that I used to be a Prabhupada servant, not servant, but guard, and ran all of his darshans for 5 years in Mayapur and Vrindavan. And so many, could tell you so many pastimes of that at some other later time. But in some way, Prabhupada had sent me one time to go get one of the devotees. I had to go to the Ganga. But he was sitting so erect and so stand and so stench. When I came back after 20 minutes of having to go out to the Ganga and come back, so many things, he was still sitting in that way. So in that same form, I saw Srila Prabhupada sitting to Gurudev. But being up in front, I waited till the class was over. And the class was over, generally, Gurudev would come and he'd put one hand on my shoulder and one hand on Puru's shoulder. And we'd walk him to his where he was staying in Jalakar's house. So before the other devotees we came there, I said, Srila Gurudev, I'm not a Sahaja, but I could see Srila Prabhupada was sitting right next to you. Is this true? And then as Madhavrata also said, Srila Gurudev, when he looked at you, he looked at me with his great blue eyes, and looked like he went right through you about 25 yards. Right, you were just like a screen. He saw everything within you, and you just right through him. And then you felt almost like naked in front of him, or you were exercised in that sense. And he smiled, and he again put his hand on my shoulder, and he said, walk with me, and he shook his head. So in the same way, I had this experience with Prabhupada. He also one day stopped in the middle of a walk, and he gave me personal instruction. I was fortunate to have many opportunities with Srila Prabhupada and Srila Gurudev for walks and discussions. And Prabhupada told me, he made me chant, and amongst all the devotees in Atlanta, he asked, do you know this verse? Te sam satsata yuktanam bhajatam priti purvakam dadami buddhi yogam tam yenamam vayantite. So he said that verse, and I didn't know the verse. I didn't know it at that time. So he made me repeat it. Te sam, like we do in a Bhagavatam class they were doing. At this point in time, then Srila Prabhupada told me, after he made me say, will you chant this? And I said, yes, Srila Prabhupada. Then every day, and at this point, if you talk about chi or spiritual energy, I almost fell backwards. I was so close, but he said it so that almost like fell backwards. Prabhupada was so powerful. And I said, yes, Srila Prabhupada. And then he took a few steps forward. He said, in this way, Krishna will always provide you the intelligence. So how do we know when we're coming to, like so many others have already said, and the glorification is there. Our whole life has been turned around by the mercy of both Srila Prabhupada and Srila Gurudev. Srila Gurudev in Miami, he told us about what will happen after his leaving. And of course, Yasoda Prabhu, he spoke some, he told him some in Brazil also when he put those things. But Padmanabha Maharaj and myself were there, and he told us that if all the he said, if all the sannyasis, if they give up their false ego and false pride and they work together and give that up and work together for my mission, then everything will go. If not, they will go their own individual ways, then all will be ruined. So he said all the leading preachers, and he named many of them by names. So following in his lineage, we should try to work together. But it's also very much important that we acknowledge who is it that we're trying to please. Srila Gurudev and Srila Prabhupada, they're not ordinary persons, and they're not even ordinary acharyas. Srila Gurudev told me personally, just like was said by Tridanda Maharaj, he said his mission is not Prabhupada's mission. His mission is what? His mission is to come to spread this Radhadasyam, this Braj Bhakti. He said, and therefore anyone who takes this, they will not necessarily, like Tridanda Maharaj said, he was crazy fellows. What are they like this? Very few devotees will be able to do this. So one day, so in this regard, he's giving us this opportunity, because that is his mission. I asked him, but he doesn't also, very nice, important point. And you let me know when I have to stop, because I'm not looking at the clock, please.
I think after this one, Prabhu.
Okay. So in this one case in Hawaii, that we were talking, and Gurudeva was in the garden, and he also did this similar thing and walks in Coral Springs. That's another story. But in this one, he was picking weeds from, in the flower bed, and there was just him and myself back there, and he was picking weeds. I was trying to figure, what is he doing? I asked him, and then he started talking. Radharani, he wants this. He wants this garland. We have to pick these flowers, and she wants this now. He physically, it was like picking weeds. He was in Samadhivas, in the Leela of Srimati Radhika. And Srila Gurudev, he would treat us just like he wanted us to remember him as a parakar, as a friend, as an associate. He saw everyone in relationship to Krishna service, not in this Aishwarya, not in some glorified in some platform of other than the Radha Dasi and giving this Vraja Bhakti. So there are so many things to say, but I'm rushing it through it because there's not much time. But from our very heart, core of our heart, we are so thankful and we are so appreciative of Srila Prabhupada and Srila Gurudev that they've come into our lives and they've changed it so much so that even now, living up in the hills of West Virginia, we're reading the books. Prabhupada, Gurudev told me to read the literatures of Srila Gurudev. And I told him, how am I don't know, I'm not very advanced. How do we do this? He said, Rupa Goswami will personally instruct you on these. You just read them. So I'm so indebted to Srila Gurudev and Srila Prabhupada. I'm sorry, I'm not a very good speaker or very intelligent or very advanced. So, but at least it may be a warm-up between Tridandi Maharaj and Bhagavat Maharaj, who have great devotion, that somehow or other, I pray that they, Srila Prabhupada and Srila Gurudev and our Guru, Gaudiya Guru Varg, accept our Dandavat pranams and our humble, tiny attempts to attain this Radha Dasyam and do service to the lotus feet. And I'd like to thank the managers of this to allow us to even somehow say a few words on their glorification. Hare Krishna. Vancha kalpa tibhyascha kripa sindhu bhyevacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha.
Jai, thank you, Prabhu. That was beautiful. I feel like I'm on an increasingly accelerating train today. It's just, and I'm almost worried what's going to come next, because I think it's going to turn into a space rocket. It's fantastic. And I love the image of you. I don't know, not everyone will know the other character, but Puru. The image of you and Puru as guards to Srila Prabhupada, priceless. I would not have challenged you guys. But will you come back? Because we're doing this until the end of 2021. We'd love to hear more of your beautiful sharing and stories.
I will try to do it, but I'll have to speak slower because there's no, it's hard to say so many things in a short time. But yeah, I as long as it's glorification proper and
yeah,
fine.
No need to speak.
Problem.
So you don't have to speak too fast, because we can bring you back several times if you're willing, if you're honest. It's very beautiful. I think we all love the whole idea of, like, we've all been on a we've all hitchhiked now from San Diego to LA, going to see Prabhupada. I mean, just beautiful. I just feel like I've experienced Srila Prabhupada and Srila Gurudev so much in that short space of time. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Very well, Dandavats.
Very well, Dandavats, everyone.